Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about signs you're not secure yet. Now, a lot of folks want to be secure, and the triggers that you have is going to be more specific to your attachment style. And so some of these, you're not going to have them at all because it's not part of your attachment style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the trigger or behavior, and then I'm going to say what attachment style it's more common with. Because if you guys are anxious and I say you're not secure yet because you cut people off, that's more common fearful avoidance, right? But maybe for an anxious preoccupied, that never is something to consider. So just because you're not doing that doesn't mean you're secure because your wound is anxious preoccupied, more specific, okay? So that's just an example. And now also remember that your triggers or your behaviors can happen every now and again, and you're probably secure enough. So it's really that these things, one or more of these things, cause distress and affect your daily life. That would be a sign that you're not secure yet, okay? So the first one, issues that you feel are genuinely small or manageable, you feel catastrophic towards or unmanageable to you. So this one's more common with fearful avoidance. So I'm going to give an example. Let's just say you're in school, right? And that example popped up because I'm in school for my PhD, right? And let's say you're emailing an advisor or professor or whatever it is, and they don't answer back, or they answer back very vaguely, or maybe they answer something like, okay, we'll set up a meeting for it. And maybe it's a question about an assignment or a project or some research you're doing, right? And you're trying to figure out how to, whatever it is, right? Their answer, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Nothing's going to happen, but you go all the way. You're so afraid. Did something go wrong? Does the professor not like me? Am I making a mistake? Is there something wrong with funding? Is there something wrong with how I did this? Maybe they don't like me, right? Whereas that also can happen with anxious preoccupied, but the difference is fearful avoidance might actually do this with even non-communication stuff. So for example, let's say your car keys, you forgot them. You checked and you realized your car wasn't turning on, and you realize your car keys are not in your bag, whatever it is, okay? And so you go upstairs, you try and look for your car keys, and you still can't find them. And then your mind goes, well, did I leave them at someone's house? Well, that doesn't make sense. How did I drive home? Where are my car keys? Did something go wrong? Did I throw them away? And you start catastrophizing. You start freaking out and getting so worried about that it becomes unmanageable to you that you actually physically have symptoms. And a lot of times it's because people with who are fearful avoidant, they have PTSD, they have a lot of trauma. So you might completely have all these negative thoughts because maybe your dad or your mom when you were younger said that you forget things or there's something wrong with you, and you might think, how could I forget? Do I not remember? And you might pin all these things when in actuality you might look and be like, oh, my car keys are in my purse, it just fell into a different pocket. And you realize it was absolutely nothing to worry about. And then you might stop yourself and say, why did I let myself get so worked up, spiral, and get worried about these keys for hours instead of just look a little bit further? Because you automatically already thought, okay, I'm wrong. I must have forgot those car keys. And so that's why fearful avoidance do it. Typically, some anxious preoccupied does it, but it's really common with fearful avoidance. And if you still are doing that, you might not be secure yet, okay? The next one is that relationships tend to be intense, short-lived, or conflict-heavy. Now, this is common with all insecure attachment types. Not everyone, but it can be common. And if you're in a relationship that you feel it's pretty short-lived, conflict-heavy, or intense, you could be a person who's still not secure yet. The next one is you may repeatedly be in relationships with unavailable or unreliable partners. This is common with both anxious preoccupied and fearful avoidance. You continuously feel like every person you're with is unavailable or unreliable. And sometimes it's about looking at yourself. Do you have an anxious attachment style? Do you have a fearful avoidance style where a lot of those individuals are not good at vetting out these types of folks who are unreliable, or they're familiar with it, or they think they can change that person subconsciously, okay? The next one is you frequently check if your partner still cares or loves you. This one is really common with anxious preoccupied, some fearful avoidance, but much more common with anxious preoccupied. You're always checking, you're always testing, you're always seeing. And anytime they don't do what you feel is care, it might really trigger you. And you might even feel like you have to break up. And if you're fearful avoidant and you might struggle with this, you might actually feel like now you don't like them anymore, you're disgusted by them, or you knew that they were wrong, or anything like that. Your mind starts escaping, okay? The next one is you interpret ambiguous behaviors as a threat to the relationship. This is most common with anxious preoccupied. Ambiguous behaviors, a lot of people will use texting as an example, but I don't want to use that one because I feel like texting nowadays, some folks are really just like, some even secure people might be triggered about texting because some people just text really weird, right? Like some people don't text for like a week. Like that's so weird. But anyways, so we're not talking about texting. Let's just say, for example, you guys are Oh, here's a common one that anxious preoccupied really gets triggered with. Let's say you guys just were intimate in the bedroom and your partner is like noticeably like drained or kind of detached. You think, okay, that means that they don't like me, they're using me for whatever, and you get really afraid when actually they're probably just tired because you guys just did something physically extraneous to some extent, right? And that's ambiguous because maybe they're tired, maybe they're detached, maybe they're having regrets, whatever it is, but likely it's because they're tired. But to you, it might be a little bit more ambiguous, so you're really worried about it. Doesn't mean they don't like me. Doesn't mean that they hate me. Doesn't mean that X, Y, and Z. And that's more common. If you still do that significantly, you might not be secure yet. The next one is you are very easily triggered by criticism, dismissive avoidant. This is really hard to fix, right? A lot of dismissive avoidants are very triggered by criticism. They might even perceive things that are not criticism, or at least not intended to be, but they still perceive it as criticism. And to be honest, dismissive avoidance, if any of you guys were or are, this one, and I'm speaking from experience, this will create so much issues in your relationship that you don't even realize it, because everything they say you're going to think is criticism, and then you create a fight or they create a fight, and it's incredibly unnecessary and it's hard to fix. But the best way to fix this one particularly, and I'm not going to mention how to fix all of these, this video will get too long, but this one just kind of hits home for me, and it used to hit home for me, so that's why I'm sharing it. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Trust that when they're saying something, it's not because they're trying to say there's something wrong with you, or you got to fix this, or you're not good enough, or anything like that. It's not like that. Sometimes they're saying something because they care about you. Sometimes they're just saying something because they're just talking. Don't assign a motive. That's really important, okay? The next one is you frequently feel like you have to watch your back around people in case they'll trick you or manipulate you. Common with fearful avoidance and dismissive avoidance. If you really feel like this is an issue where you're always feeling like someone's going to trick you, or I can't believe this, or I have to make sure this doesn't happen, you're either fearful avoidant or dismissive avoidant, and you're not secure yet. The next one is you lose respect for your partner when they lose control of your emotions. Common with dismissive avoidance, sometimes with fearful avoidance, but it's really common with dismissive avoidance. The next one is you hide parts of yourself, such as your coping mechanisms, drinking, eating habits, controlled schedules, whatever it is. This is common with dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant. If you are constantly living with this huge side of yourself that nobody knows about but you might not be secure yet. The next one is you tolerate relationships that have little to no progress and use control tactics such as silence or indirect means to make them get the hint. You're probably still an anxious preoccupied. Now, you might be fearful, avoidant, leaning anxious, but you're probably not secure. And so you're not secure yet, and you're probably getting there. So let's summarize and we'll wrap it up. Signs that you might not be secure. You might have issues managing small or manageable tasks from a typical standpoint, depending on your society, whatever it may be, right? And you feel like you should be able to manage these things, but it's hard for you to manage. You might not be secure. Your relationships might be intense, short-lived, or conflict heavy. You might not be secure. You might be repeatedly in relationships with people who are unavailable to you. If you frequently check in if your partner loves you, if you interpret their ambiguous behaviors as a threat to the relationship, you might not be secured. If you're triggered very easily by criticism, or you feel like you always have to watch your back in case your partner is going to trick you or manipulate you, you're probably not secure yet. If you think your partner is, like, if you feel like you lose respect for your partner, if they lose control of their emotions, you're probably not secure. If you hide parts about yourself from your partner, huge part of yourself, such as your coping habits, drinking habits, whatever it is, you might not be secure. And the last one is you might tolerate relationships that have little to no progress, and you might use control tactics to try and get them to make progress. You might not be secure yet. And so I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.